Hey everybody, welcome to episode 98 of Tactical Crouch. I'm KickedTripod, joined of course by Yiska and Volamel, and we've got so much to talk about today. So we are not going to mess around. We're just going to say three things. Number one, like and support the show. Do it on Twitch. Do it on iTunes. Do it on Patreon. Patreon.com/tacticalcrouch. Big thanks to all the recent subs. Pork Chop Sammy just hit one right before the show, as well as King Zane gifted 10. Sometimes we just, say, hey, well, actually, you know what? Let's be nice. Bjorn and Keg Bugles too did it. Every person's gonna hear that sub on all the platforms. Thank you all. Y'all are great. Oh yeah, support the show though. It's a great way to do that. We're redesigning our emotes right now. So we're gonna have new emotes for probably next week's show, assuming everything gets approved in time. So it's gonna be awesome. So sub here, twitch.tv/KickedTripod. We record Mondays and Wednesdays at noon, and the show's posted on YouTube and everywhere else. All right, let's get into the news. Brought to you by our patron producers: Battlecry, Pin, Lotion, Charlie L, Audio Compass, Pork Chop, Sammy, Kosh 67, Coochie, Kopi, Charo, Picasso, Nathan, and Your Misery. Thank you all so much for supporting the show. Y'all are the best. You're the best. Okay. Here we go. Let's just get right in. Let's get right into the Titans stuff first, I think. Vancouver Titans, Janu and head coach, right? Pagion?
Yep.
Have officially left the Titans. Official. I don't think anyone has officially left, right? Like there's rumors, there's stuff circulating,
yes.
But nobody else has officially left the Titans. This I think was foreshadowed by many a person, and there's probably more to come on that. But we also did get it. We got some confusing leaks this morning. Halo of Thought said Vancouver's picking up all of NA Contenders team third impact. After which multiple people, including players on the actual team, have come up to say, nah, bro.
Yeah.
Nah, bro.
I'll also say I put my nose into the wind. I'd be very surprised if that was the case. I'd be very surprised. I think if Halo actually makes good on his promise to Tayo? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Yeah.
Like if I'm wrong, I'll straight up quit reporting on roster moves. Which one league boy short. I'm not 100% on it. That's just like this dropped like 5 minutes before the show, right? And that's as much as I could really find out in that time. So not anything official, of course, but just one more voice adding to whatever the players already said.
Yeah,
saying like,
Halo said in response to Tayo's response, Tayo said something like fake news or whatever. I can't remember what he said.
Legit. He retweeted it and said legit fake news.
Fake news. And then Halo responded and said, if it's not true, I'll stop reporting on roster moves entirely. So
you can't just shoot from the hip. It's not something you could really afford to do.
What's this third impact?
It's just their May the 4th be with you. And then they've got a Yeti from the Vancouver Titans, or a Yeti from Star Wars. I think they're just baiting at this point.
This is bait week, by the way. I'm not sure if you guys saw this, but like Gen G posted like, oh, Canada memes. Mm-hmm. And then everyone's like, oh, Gen G, like on the 27th, who y'all and whatever. And it's just like, Gen G just announced that they picked up French Canadians for Valorant. It's just like, well played. Chapeau.
Gotcha.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the Titans still in shambles. Literally and figuratively, I think at this point, we don't really know a whole lot more what's going on there. Though I figure that we'll have to know pretty soon. I think.
Yeah, I mean they play next week.
Yeah,
or they play this week, I should say. So yeah, time is of the essence
in North America again. For what is it's okay. They just have to play Washington and Mayhem.
For all my conspiracy theorists, let them know. You just got to look into it.
Did you just make the wait? Was that the Illuminati sign?
I don't know. I have no idea, guys.
Or was it the Echo thing?
You'll guess on your own. It was the Angela Merkel power stance. You taught me that.
There we go. Yeah. The triangle of stability.
There you go. Just look into it, guys. Just saying.
Yeah, that's a political power move.
What is it? Dr. Disrespect did it. It's like just keep the census going. Just keep the census. Keep the census going. Yeah. As he was posting a bunch of COVID-19 conspiracy theories on his stream, talking through. It was man. We're not going there. We're not going there. Any thoughts overall? I feel like we've kind of beat a dead horse until we get some official news. It's all kind of
it's tough to kind of comment on Titans.
Speculation.
When we hear about it, it'd be great, but
I'll say, yeah, I think at this point, I'm not confirming anything, of course, but it's if that was to happen, I'd shed a manly tear. I'm going to tell you that much.
Yeah, it'll be sad
because, if you draw a line through a competitive Overwatch and just try to follow the narratives, at some point you're going to have touching points with some of these players.
Oh yeah,
you're going to be involved in either it's Apex Season 2 and how that relates and how the greats of that time relate, Jaehong. And you go to Apex Season 4, they make the GC Busan Great Royal Roaders. They go into Contenders Season 1. They finally get the dub there. Then they move into the Overwatch League. They themselves hit the ground running so quickly, and everything is compared to their excellence at that point. Perfect stage records, deep into stage 3, the team to beat Shock in the first one, raise them up to really be hungry about it, have a great stage 2 final, then as Destiny wills it, they meet in the finals again and Shock just dominates them. Everything is if there's a yin, there's a yang. If there's a narrative in Overwatch, there's a runaway in it very often, right? It's not to say that they perfectly determined it, but in some way they just have something to do with this with the underlying narrative stack going on. And of course, we got to say that roster wasn't the same since Apex Season 3. But then again, if we argue from that point, dude, I'm barely 70% of the atoms probably of the ones I was when I watched Apex Season 2. So there's nothing really to do in that regard. So yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, we'll see.
By the
way,
of the guard.
Dream, if you are listening, that tweet was so good. I love when Dream tweets. He says, not that Halo has a track record of honesty and keeping his word, but man, I hope he actually leaves Overwatch now. All right, Dream. I love it. Okay. That's the first one. Second one, Parist Eternal made a move, signed Fielder. And Fielder played for GC Busan Wave, Joe?
Yep.
Thoughts? Opinions?
I mean,
seems good,
seems
fine.
Fine.
It seems like, I mean, picking up.
We're playing on 200 ping. Did a bang up job. I'm excited to see what he looks like if and when he can actually get to the States. But yeah, I think it's a good move. Not somebody who really jumped off the page. I think he was a little bit past my time of kind of covering Korea. and really kind of paying attention to it in depth, but heard very good things, and excited to see him and all. It's a good time. Glad to see more people coming up.
Yeah, I mean, he from what I could tell, at least, he looked strong against Philly. I mean,
despite ping,
with high ping, right? So like that's kind of the interesting thing is he's playing on the other side. He's still playing from Korea, right?
Yeah.
So he's on the side of ping. Yeah, it's cool. I'm kind of in the same thing where it's like I don't honestly know a whole lot about it, but I feel like at the very least this should give them good depth. And he played this weekend and he was strong.
Yeah. I mean, it feeds into the entire discussion, like with what Hafikula said as well. I think Contenders is once again at a point where it's like there are really strong players still in Contenders. And there are actually really strong teams in Contenders. And the scrims aren't just like trolling around against Contenders teams. It's actually rather competitive in both regions with the top ones. Of course, it depends which all team is scrimming against these respective Contenders teams. There's also a fair amount of innovation coming, like cross-pollination there. So like there's good talent. The question is, and that's why the Fielder case is such an interesting case, is like, is this a precedent where teams just go, maybe we'll eat the ping advantage? Because like a lot of us are already playing at 100 ping, 110 or whatever. Yeah. So why not just go at 200? Of course, like I would have to ask people how big the difference really is between those. It feels like it should be monumental, but then again, also probably depends on the role. I think playing Reinhardt would be big ass for like to do that in that regard. So
there's also like a ping diminishing returns before like between these are totally made up numbers, but I know players have talked about, and we this is something that we saw a lot of conversation about in Valiant this week, is that players prefer to play at 150 ping over anything below 75 ping. Otherwise, if they're at 75 ping, it's better for them to play at 150 than anything between 76 and 149.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting.
And like there's, and
do
that's,
you know why?
I don't know. So in Halo, there was just kind of the same thing because it's long enough where you can actually lead your shots again. Whereas I think it's when you're in that smaller window of 75 to 150, it's really volatile. That's what it was for us in Halo. So you're like, you wanted to get as low as possible. And if you couldn't, a higher ping actually kind of helped you out a little bit, because at that point you were shooting where you thought the model was, not where they actually were. And you could train through that. I have no idea how that works for Overwatch. I honestly don't. But if there is something like that, that's what this is here. So I don't know. There's also the advantages of just like the time for the client. Again, like you're talking about fractions of a second at this point, which is a big deal. Like a professional baseball pitch is 0.3 seconds. So, if you can hit dingers, right? These players can hit dingers in game. So, there's a lot going on there. Who are we? Oh, we're talking about ping.
Still kind of bizarre. Like with Parist, they have like, again, this kind of feels down the amount of like the Western core to this roster. I'm still kind of waiting for them to pull the trigger and just go fully Korean at this point. Like, I feel like the only thing that's really stopping them is like the Parist organization, like the parent company. It's like, I'd really appreciate it if you guys could like keep some like French people like soon. Like he's a good player. He's also French. Like, could we just keep him on board? Maybe get him a little bit of play time. But the more, now that Fielder's in, potentially rumor has it, a couple more people, or at least, Gray sounds like there could be some departure there. I don't know. Just taking what I'm hearing from Reddit. Probably not the best idea, but if that's the case, then do they go Korean again? Like, if that's the case, then why don't you just go full Korean? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a little bizarre. I'm still kind of weirded out by this roster,
right?
but
like it feels more like they're working for it, because the other news is that they got rid of Kruise to the Defiant when Parist when Kellex retired. So
yeah, that was kind of my that was what's weird. What was weird to me about this roster going into this season was like, you're already mostly Korean. You have a fully Korean coaching staff. Why are you trying to make it harder for yourself? They've done a bang up job with what they've got so far and how far they've gotten. But I think like at least by next year, this team's probably fully Korean, and I think they are a contender for sure. Like, this is a team that's going to do extremely well with the players they have. So
I feel like we got baited though. Like, I feel we got like Parist was supposed to be like this European super team, stay to its roots, and they kind of kept going. And then
last year,
you blink, and then all of a sudden it's like all Korean, and they're just like, psych.
Yeah.
The thing is, they're still playing very well with a majority
100%.
European.
Yeah, they're
now,
doing
right?
great. They're doing fantastic.
Yeah,
they are, which is
that's
also really impressive.
But that's where I think they could do better. I think they could do more.
Yeah,
dude. Real talk. Like, we got to talk about Rush and Packing just being nuts coaches.
Hands off.
We got to talk about it now. Like, if you take that roster that was so really mediocre, the core of it, and you bring it to the point where they realistically could have been 3-0 against either the best or the second best team in the league, with especially like with XCI being out for some of those matches, like switching like the back line because of like issues there. It's nuts. Like that is a huge thing. And of course, like we're going to talk about it later with like Valiant, the same story. Like, these people just make like lemonade all the time. It's nuts.
I mean, I give 100%, praise to Rush and praise to the Parist coaching staff, but I look at 9K in the direction that he kind of led this team in, where it was like, we are going to gamble on like a mix. We are going to take a lot of scouting that talented European core, bringing them over, and then taking, what many people were saying was one of the best, contenders teams, and slapping them into an OWL roster, betting that they'll be okay by the time that Sparkle can become of age and invest in themselves. The aggressions there, the confidence, I can't say enough. 9K, huge brain, crusty level at this point. Not in terms of necessarily coaching, but just in management and building fantastic job with what he's done with Eternal.
I'll also tell you straight up, when we had this talk about like serviceable people in the next season are probably, dude, we have Baby Bay playing the best Overwatch he's ever played. Godsby is back. Like, Nico is probably playing the best Overwatch. Okay, we got to talk about what best means in relative terms, because like when you dominate basically the Overwatch world, maybe that's means something different. But from the skill level overall, he's playing his best Overwatch ever. Ben Best looks like way better than in comparison. Like these people that seemingly were on their way out of Overwatch League, dude, sometimes it's just the right coach. And it's not even saying that their former coaches are necessarily bad ones. It's more like you got to find the right one in order to get you going. And I think the same is true. I'd love to just like get a peek into an alternate universe where the Krusty move isn't made and what that means. Even if all the same talent comes to Shock, and like, what does that do to the like what kind of transformation do we have here? Right? Like, and it's so easy for people to always say, coaches really don't like that high of an impact, blah blah blah. Like, I think it's undervalued at this point, where it's like certainly it seems to be almost like an empirical reality that certain people just can either transform teams or constantly create very high level teams, such as Depay, like just being able to field rosters in that that level, right?
It's really interesting because I feel like coaching is the most misunderstood part of like Overwatch right now, especially from like the performance delta that you can kind of see happen when teams change coaches. And we've also seen players too who have exited Overwatch League who are just like, coaches did nothing for me. So it's just really interesting because it's like, is it the coach? Is it the player? Is it a combination of the coach and the player? How do you find the right thing to? This is why headhunters exist. I think at this point, it's like, how do you find the right person? How do you find somebody like Krusty, like a Packing now? Like, are we at the point where we can put like Packing into like an elite coaching pedestal
I
yet?
think so.
Like, is it too early to do that?
I don't think so. I wouldn't. I don't know if he's just going to go out there and win titles with better talent.
Yeah,
but from what he's worked with, I think he's done a fantastic job at just bringing these players up. Not necessarily like raising them, but taking them and making them more than what they should be, but like really like unlocking their potential. As cheesy as that sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I want to talk about this more. We probably should talk about this more, but we just like don't have time to talk about this more today. And that's because we do need to talk about a long message that came from John Spector last week on Reddit called A Message to Our Fans. And in this message to the fans, John Spector broke up his message in kind of multiple different topics. We're going to tackle them one by one. And of course, chat, I will get you the link right now. Ba-boom. And we're going to just tackle it one by one, kind of discuss our thoughts on it. We are going to review, just for those who are listening on audio or who are watching on YouTube. Number one, if you're watching on YouTube, we have timestamps now. So you can actually just look at the video description and see where we start talking about matches. If you're just like, just give me the matches, they're there, as well as everything else. If you're watching live, sit tight. And audio, you can scrub through. You're fine. You're fine. You're on your non-commute right now anyways. You're chilling. Thanks for being here. All right. Let's talk about this post. John Spector's thoughts on the 2020 plans. Here's the big nuggets that he put out for us here. Number one, they're working on bringing back player cams. Great.
Sweet.
Number two, if the tournament structure goes well, June and July will also have a same or similar tournament structure.
Fantastic.
And the goal for August/September is to have live in-person playoffs and grand finals.
Unlikely.
Nice. Yeah, but that's
but
just what you
unlikely.
gotta.
That's state of where we are right now. California today, we just got our stay-at-home orders extended through May 31st.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm going back to physical work tomorrow. We open shops again.
California is a little, I mean, I'm in Silicon Valley, so I think I don't know if it's all of California or just our counties, but I'm in Silicon Valley where it's like, it's the tech hub. And so there's like, shouldn't we be doing this from home if we need to anyways, kind of thing going on. So anyway,
I think it's a very positive message to the fans that the hope is that they are looking to do a live in-person playoffs, but realistically, you could probably bet on that not happening.
I would be very surprised unless they delayed them in like a completely irresponsible number of months. If they're like, you know what, let's just do it at BlizzCon this year.
Yeah.
You know, like that's and here's the thing though, I wouldn't put it past them. Like it would be like, you know what? Let's end.
Also, why isn't that already the case? That seems like a huge draw to be able to put people in like butts and seats at BlizzCon, whereas World Cup, it's like it definitely fills out the arena that they have in the convention center, but it's like you already have all of these other finals there. Why don't you have your Overwatch League finals at least like tied to? Maybe make it a third day that everybody's been chiming in about for years.
They've been going away from that for the past few years, trying to get their world championships and like their real esports championship titles
like a standalone.
away on a standalone. Number one, I think it just like breaks out the like, what do you do? You're at BlizzCon. It's 2 days long. You can watch the Overwatch League World Championships, the Hearthstone World Championships, or the StarCraft World Championships. And if you love esports, like that's a sucky choice to have to make. It's not great from like an advertising marketing perspective because you have so many. Again, you're spreading out something that could be, or you're combining something that you could spread out. There's a lot of logistics, I think, there as well. And I think that the kind of fan service community models of World Cups do really well. And so I think it's a combination of all of those. But it would just be, it would just be cool to see. I would like it at BlizzCon because I get to go to BlizzCon every year. And I don't get to fly to Philly.
100%.
Oh, dang. Do we get the juice? Correction. Sources have confirmed that this is one of the options that Vancouver Titans have. There are several tier 2 options they've looked at. I apologize for jumping the gun to break the news. I will still keep my word. Whatever happens, I'll be leaving Overwatch League. And for that one, we give a big ol'. That one's for Dream.
You just can't do it.
Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I get why they don't. I would like to see it there. I get why they don't. I hope that they don't try to. I hope they don't try to delay it multiple months, and then all of a sudden we have these 5 or 4 to 8 teams or whatever, 10 teams come in cold after like 2 months of nothing.
Right. That's my point with all of this. It's like a lot of this feels like very positive spin. Like, yeah, we're looking to make a potential live in-person finals for August, September, guys, even though that America's kind of on fire at the moment, but we're going to do live in person, or at least that's the plan, but that could change. We don't know.
I think it's
just
also,
be real. Tell me what you're trying to do.
Mention this. This is not a carrot on the stick that many people care about, I think. No. That's just like, okay. This net message needed to be a promise of something to hope for, because let's be honest, the retirements are multifold, right?
You see what I'm talking about? Yeah.
It's a thing of the situation not looking well, the game not being fun for some of them.
Are we jumping forward right now?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Okay. Jump forward.
And like, and of course the global situation as well, and there being an opportunity to jump to something which looks promising. There's a glimmer of hope on the other side, and of course it's a grass is always greener on the other side thing. But if you're like pushed to the point where it's like almost like an environmental thing, that the confidence in the product isn't there, then you gotta give people a beacon of hope. And I was disappointed in that regard from this message, because it wasn't one. And you don't need to necessarily convince us. That doesn't matter. Like, audience, you will see a lot of people were fine with the way this was mentioned, but you got to talk to your professionals and give them something to look forward to, give us something to believe in, right?
I'm going to make you repeat. I'm going to make you repeat this later.
Yes,
I'm going to make you repeat it because I want to go through these individual points.
Yeah, sure. Then let's do that.
So let's do it, because I want to hear and I want to agree, but then I don't want to like never get to the other points.
Yes.
Viewership and awards. By the way, this is why people are like, KickedTripod's a bad host. He cuts his co-host off. I'm like, you're right.
No, it's called structure, people.
You're right. Actually,
it's called structure.
You angry YouTube viewer, you're right this time. I did it. Viewership and rewards. Working with YouTube to improve discoverability. Sure. I bet.
Nice.
Token drops will return to overwatchleague.com in the app in the next few weeks, but not to YouTube right away. So no ETA on YouTube.
Yep.
Fine. I've never watched on either of those, I don't think. They're setting viewership records in Asia with the new time slots for those Asian stuff.
Not bad.
Great.
whichever intern you had to write these paragraphs, I think they could get a raise. For this is one of the more like the better worded, I think, parts of this thing where it's just like, hey, you know what, we're doing better in Asia. By the way, this whole thing's spin on
100%.
damage control, and we're going to talk about that at the end. But I don't know what working with YouTube to improve discoverability means, because YouTube fundamentally is not discoverable for gaming and streams. Just period. It's just not. So
I would hope you'd be working with
like
that's kind of an assumption, right?
Maybe it's as much as just
like it's not
giving the YouTube channel just giving it like an algorithmic push, where it's like you have this oracle of an algorithm that nobody really understands outside of YouTube. We know some parameters. We hate most of these parameters that we know of. Like, you already are giving, like, based on what I've seen in terms of like evidence-based YouTube promotion things, you're already giving mainstream media big ups in the trending tab in terms of like the amount of views they need to get in order to get into the trending tab. Yeah. Just give us a little boost. Just make the algorithm go up, and like just make it unfair for everyone else to compete. You're in a partnership, right? Like, just boost it up, whatever. Nobody will notice either.
No, like, nobody's gonna know. Nobody has access to that kind of arcane magic where it's just like, all right, we're just gonna the spell here and push Owl into the mainstream and put it on the front page somehow. Oh, it's on everybody's front page. How did it get there? Nobody knows.
Yeah, like, and I'm all for that. And I would love it if they could make a special exception for Overwatch League to do that. That's great. Part of me just feels like it's just like, you know what? Like they transferred over the discovery for their live streams from their VOD content, which is not how it works. Mm-hmm. I need to know when a stream is
when
live.
This is live. Yeah.
I need a following tab.
Yep.
I need a following tab. Like that should be simple. I need a live following tab. But whatever, they're working with them on that. Tokens. I never watched with the tokens.
It will help. I'm telling you, that's easy. 15K, 20K, 30K viewers. Telling you.
Tokens will help. The problem is that the Overwatch League website is an unoptimized piece of shit. And
it doesn't have to be optimized to be muted.
The extra commercials that I get on that are shit. And
so you just have one open over here, and then you have the YouTube
app
open over
bad,
here.
But then all of the extra like things that I would want to be doing on my phone makes it. So I'm a downer on this one here.
I can tell you brought the sauce today. You're cooking with it today.
He's juiced. He promised the juice, and we're getting the juice.
When it's finally something I can speak to. Yeah,
I know.
I'm be mad about.
Yeah, it's just like I don't know. I'm
yeah.
But whatever. There are people who are happy about it. At the same time, I'm not impressed by I don't use the tokens anyways. I don't. I just buy them with all of our Patreon money.
Here's the thing, which is also weird for me because
I don't.
There's something like if you want to have something with media, there's two ways to not two ways, but there's like a spectrum you can go on, right? You can either attract viewers that are very, very lucrative to cater to in terms of also what they are willing to spend and make a hardcore experience for them so they spend more per capita, right? Sure. Or you can just spread wide and have nuts viewership. Now, it always seemed like with the localization, with like people buying more jerseys and stuff like that, spending more on and that was always talked about pre-Overwatch League, that esports fans spend like a magnitude less than sports fans a year on their hobby as esports. So the thing is, so you have the high quality fans, like the guys that go to the home stands, that watch, that buy the jerseys of coaches that soon switch the teams and then become obsolete in terms of that, and it now lies just in a
all right, we're out of here. We're done. See you next time. Jeez, I've never been attacked like that on my.
So you got the high value targets there, and then you bolster that with like the lowest value targets you could possibly. Someone who doesn't even want to put $2 into a skin, but would rather watch 20 hours to get the same skin. Dude, that is someone that definitely serves the meme of like, stolen laptop, like neighbor Wi-Fi. Like, how do you reconcile these differences? That number then doesn't mean that much. It's also an important thing to notice. We don't necessarily need the viewership of an LCS, for instance, in order to like be just profitable, right? Theoretically, because we could be spending more per capita. We're not sure if that's our system is leading there. I also don't have any information on that, but it's very possible that you can that you can attract stuff like that.
Sure,
because depending on what, like every streamer will tell you, it's very different what kind of viewers that you attract. It's a very different demographic or like feel to the community, and depending on what kind of content you put out, you attract people, and then either they're monetizable or they're not, blah blah blah, right? Like so for instance, someone like, just to give a brief outlook, like someone like Rekful that in the past pulled like between 20 and 10k viewers, only ever had like very little subs in comparison, like 2k subs most of the time. That's of course, now put that against like some of the just chatting streamers, of course, very different. Add 1k viewers, 4k subs, or something like that. So that's the method I'm talking about. Now, this doesn't move the needle. It just makes it a little bit more impressive, but theoretically, the per capita spending goes down. Now, of course, yes, more people will get eyes on it, and let's be honest, someone that doesn't watch the streams and just has it on the background, theoretically also is kind of like bullshitting the viewership sponsor. But we take it from the pay pigs. That's all fine. And like let's bolster the numbers a little bit in that regard. But it's really counterintuitive.
Here's the thing, though. Even if it doesn't actually add viewers, it just shifts viewers. Overwatch League is making more money than this because they're running their own ads on the MLG platform. And so and you get a lot more CPM on
all
MLG
platforms.
Yeah.
I'm getting WoW Arena ads now. Legend of Soul Guard. I know everybody's pumped about Call of Duty as well.
I have never heard of that game before. Anyways,
you have now?
I don't know. Yeah, that was great. Cool info about Asia, but also a little bit no-duh-ish on this. So, okay, cool. Player retirements. Sinatra will still get his MVP skin in the next few months.
That's a good decision.
Great. It's just
good. No, it really is. They could have easily just like flanked.
Yeah, they could have been. They could have been mad petty.
I wish they would have just gotten him an emote that disconnected that player from the game. You're just a quitter. But yeah, they said they're gonna do it. That's great. Fine. They would have faced such like awful backlash if they 100%. Did it. They're well along in designing it, so it makes sense. Didn't make
apparently they're done with it.
Here's my problem about his whole spiel about player retirements. He didn't make a single comment on the criticisms about the game, but instead fell back on that this was about players competing at a high level in a scary situation. I don't doubt that, playing from home and playing on ping and stuff exacerbates some situations and emotions and the emotional health. I don't doubt it. But I don't think that if we're all doing homestands, I don't think the situation is much better. I don't think that that's what keeps Sinatra in the league. And I'm really upset that that's not what he addressed here. Instead, he pawned it off as players needing to do what's best for them. If they can't, you can't handle the heat, get out of our kitchen. We get that kind of thing. That pissed me off a little bit. Yeah. And I know that there's a lot of hardworking people who, will insist that they never worked an honest day work in their life. That's fine. And they're probably pissed at what I'm saying right now. But it really irked me when that was the way. This is the intern you fire. So the 2020 season plans, they keep their job. It's fine. Viewership and awards, give them a pay raise. The player retirements one, fire them. Address it straight on. Because at this point right now, like there's These are just the confirmed players who are actually leaving or have left. We ain't at the end of that train. We haven't found that caboose, if you know what I'm saying.
No.
So, I needed more. I'm at the same time, I know a lot of people found this reassuring.
Sure.
I also here beyond like what everyone is consciously able to express in order to make their case why they wanted to retire, right? It's like a lot of us is subconsciously driven by whatever environment we're encountering in.
Sure.
And it's very true that maybe even if we had the viewership collapse, if the arenas are full, that vibe, that subconscious like impending doom is not on the player then, and it's a very different environment. I need people to understand that whatever you think about the game would be massively exacerbated by travel. It would have been nuts in what's this is the big lesson that if you think like the stress that is coming from COVID is nothing in compared to what travel would have done to some of these people, especially the ones with the large travel requirements. Of course, case by case basis. If you have family that's like in a thingy situation, I'm talking aggregate in what it does to the system.
Sure.
The things that need to be done is things like make it mandatory for every team to have like a psychologist on stuff or like a performance coach, someone to talk to. We had Curry Shot on the podcast talking about how working with a guy like that made him realize that the ways he was working, these absurd hours, is not going to be like a thing that you can pull off for the longest time, but the system requires it. What we need for next season is a significantly longer season, or yes, that like I would say less games, but that is even more stressful for players because less games means stakes of regular season are higher.
Yep.
We need more time for these people to de-escalate, and we need less changes for that time for them to be able to prep. So there are diminishing returns to the hours they put in, and they don't feel as inclined to be there. It's bad, dude. Like last year, it was already bad in terms of like mental health and stress and everything. This current situation, of course, like the entire world is going nuts. There's one big competitor launching, like everything's coming together. But even if this entire thing hadn't happened, the big determining factors are still here, and you would still see that shit show. It would still definitely be on your doorstep, and we would be having very, very similar discussions with, yes, you having more opportunity to wipe that under the carpet, under the filled arenas that no doubt the homestands would have attracted. But that isn't enough, and that's also not doing right by our professionals. I talked to some guy who would know how much pro CS teams would practice a week. It's half of Overwatch pros, if that. There are pros in the top 10 that haven't touched scrims in like weeks before they go to a tournament. Not touching the game you're playing while our guys are going 80 hours, not like working themselves to the bone because the game keeps changing. That's not permissible, dude. You got to change something. You either got to build in de-stresses, got to give them professionals to work on. You got to make more time for more breaks. You got to ease out on the constant differences on what the game is like. Even if we're going back from hero pools, that's once again a change. We're having Overwatch 2. Maybe you're changing systems there.
Yes.
Dude, when are people actually going to settle down and just not tilt off the planet whenever they see a blue post? Like at this point, it's getting to a PTSD level of outrage, where it's like, I'm sure like a lot of people still enjoy the game and the environmental aspects of it are making it so. But dude, if we wanted to have a league, even if everything works super well, and it needs to with Overwatch 2, we got to make some amends. We got to listen to these professionals, especially the teams that are telling you exactly this and that you have shut down for the longest time, that you're not talking to. It's a ridiculous situation, and everyone that knows what's up, especially from those teams, read that post and you made them more mad. It's nuts. What is going on? This is a nothing burger.
It really is. That's what I took away from this. To get back on track.
Timestamp that, yo.
100%. Great.
Preach,
Fantastic.
preach.
Touched on a lot.
Get that in there. Why not?
Wax lyrical. To kind of get back to the comment about, if you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen. I think what people really wanted from this was some reassurance, was some positivity, and that's why it got so much traction, so many awards, so much upvoting, so much praise from the community. They want to feel reassured from this, and I don't know if this is necessarily the message that should be a reassuring one. Again, like Yiska said,
It wasn't.
It flat out was not. It was a spin, nothing burger. That was everything is positive. Everything's rosy.
Good. Yeah, there's some good stuff in there, like the tokens and whatnot. We're not like the viewership being up in Asia. These are good.
It feels like it feels like the constant thing that game devs do, where they take stuff away from you just to give it back to you and be positive, like to get praise for it.
We don't have command center.
I feel like what we should be doing is just like put all of that out there. Like, just call a spade a spade. Let's
talk to me like a human.
Objective to what's going on, and then give us the opportunities to help you out. Open up the scene. That's the next topic, of course. Like, open up the T2, T3 scene. Create some buzz with Overwatch 2. Lay the hands off. Let us create the esports that we want and build around that. Yes, you like the percentage share of the profit that you will be making will be smaller, but the pie will be bigger. So just let us take over and let us build this esports that you've suffocated from the beginning when building this, giving like people so like ridiculous outlines in terms of what the esports should be looking like. Us never finding out what it really could be.
I don't want to interrupt you, Yiska, but I do want to get people who haven't read this an overview of what John Spector said about the Tier 2 Path to Pro. Basically, that it hasn't met expectations. They're actively exploring potential changes to the Path to Pro model, including opening up the system to more community tournaments. And they did bring up the barriers, breaking barriers and echo tournaments as examples there. So there's a little bit to read in. Is like, do they mean like we can get monthly melees back and like that could be a Path to Pro? Or do they mean like, Blizzard is going to make more fun one-offy things and then that's going to be a Path to Pro? I'm assuming that latter can't actually be as serious. It can't be as serious. So you can keep this intern, but I would choose better examples.
Are they on probation, John? Is this the intern on probation?
This is the one where it's, you're just like, we're moving you downstairs into the basement.
You can still work here. You're not fired.
Wi-Fi,
but
shitty Wi-Fi. So it's just, and here's the thing, right? Like a lot of these there are people who really enjoy Overwatch as a game.
Sure, it's an amazing game.
The Tier 2 Path to Pro system does not allow players who enjoy the game to compete.
No.
It just doesn't. Like there's not enough of them. B, there's the path. It's like what's the forest in Lord of the Rings where like you step off like 1 foot off the path and you're lost forever and dead? Is that Mirkwood Forest? I think it might be Mirkwood.
Step away from that one.
Anyways,
hands up, don't shoot.
It's the Mirkwood Forest path here, and it's just. And don't get me wrong, he said the right things here, and I'm I'll give him a benefit of the doubt, thumbs up, and saying,
sure, great,
you at least acknowledged that the way things are currently being done are not the best thing for Tier 2.
Mm-hmm.
But the skeptic in me also goes like, there's no actual active talent. They said that the Tier 2 contenders team is exploring options.
Potentially.
I'm like, exploring is too late.
Oh.
I need like it's too late of a time to be exploring. You should have been exploring between season 2 and season 3. That was the latest that you could have still been exploring to have an active plan to make me not feel like, we're going to lose all of our good players.
Yep.
We're going to lose all of our good players in Tier 2.
The fundamentals of this game are so good theoretically, right? like it's that okay. Let's take it a swing because there needs to be, we can't just shit on it, right? We got to say this is, some things are up and some things are going towards being massively better. I would argue that all the development in that regard is true, and it also makes me feel better about the game. Let's just call a spade, and also calling a spade is also to recognize that the game has been much more fun than it was a year ago, simply because of the introductions of all those systems. 2-2-2 was a great change for the game in terms of like the general player base wanting to play. Okay, that's not true necessarily for the pro players who have to wait a long time, especially the DPS ones. Maybe we got to figure out something for them. But like hero pools, I would even argue are still fun in the lower levels, because it takes some of the anxiety away that you have when, like, if I'm playing Ashe, everyone flames me for picking Ashe because it's a suboptimal pick to, when Widow or McCree aren't banned. So in that regard, I think that added something to the game in the lower levels at least. And in general, if we look at the trends, like we talked about it last show, like search volumes are up for rank, people are wanting to get better. So the upwards trend is there. We're currently in the mood valley, but we're not in the performance valley of this game. Performance valley was 6 months ago when like we had heard nothing of the hero. Yeah. We will talk about this in the future. Echo, super amazing hero. Also, I had a lot of fun watching that. So like, let's not be overly negative and say we're just trying to polish a turd here. That's not what we're doing.
I don't think anybody's saying that game...
We would be out if it was a turd.
If
the three of us wouldn't be here if this was a turd. Like, let's be real.
Yeah.
The show might be a turd.
This is more a criticism of what's being said. Not necessarily the performance of things, because like you said, Echo's seemingly doing good for the game. Hero pools, weirdly enough, the casual fan base seems to be interested in coming back to the game. Maybe that's tied to Echo. Nobody knows. I'm not sure. We don't have those numbers. We can only assume. But I think it's a safe assumption to say that, right? This is more of a criticism of what's being said here, because tier 2 path to pro section is exactly what I've heard from this development team. Not necessarily John Spector. Again, he's not a developer. He can only say what they give him, right? This is what I've heard year after year after year. You mess up, you f up, and then you tell me that we're going to maybe make a change in about a year. That's going to try and change the game for the better. We already had a change. Tier 2 just got a change. We simplified the broadcast. We removed a lot of the tier 3, observing for some of these lower teams, and we're just going to try and put on the best games possible. That was supposed to be the solution. Apparently it's not. So what is it? Can we find something that works? Not necessarily find something that works, because that sounds, very reductive, but can we just find something and let it ride out to see if it works? None of these systems
I would argue
for
some of these systems we gotta get
100%. You have to completely triage 100%. But why does it seem like every system seemingly sucks?
Yeah,
hero pools is nothing. Very easy, completely unhealthy.
Well, and they've changed it now to be just masters and grandmasters.
I still have my gripes with that in terms of like the competitive level, but that's a different discussion.
The thing is, we're taking the wrong lessons. We're taking the lessons from traditional sports that is not necessarily in our factor, and where regular seasons just work. They don't. So this stuff like this. So everyone. Like I felt like a broken record talking about tournaments and stage playoffs and whatnot, and how that was obviously like, yes, that is a great change to now improve, take that, because it would have been hard with a travel, but that is the lesson. Act on it in the future. If that is not in the next season, you learn nothing, bro. Like, you really are resistant to learning.
So okay, to their credit, I feel like the solution to that problem was the mid-season tournament, right? Like, that was their attempt to try and say, okay, it's, and I agree, it's not nearly enough, because like one extra international competition for this global league that's going to be completely stressed out of their mind with travel, barring COVID and what happened with that wasn't going to be enough to kind of float the extra, positivity narrative to get us through. You need something, and if hero pools was designed, way in advance to season 3, and that was always going to be the thing that was going to hit along with travel, this was always going to happen. Like this, the negativity, the sell, like not the departures, the exodus of some of these players was always going to happen. Like this is not something that you can feasibly do for an extended amount of time. I like where your head's at, to kind of go back to the player retirements and looking at, how structurally the game is played. The game is so open. There's so many different game modes, different maps, different points, different characters. You're rewarded for switching. It's too much of a sandbox. You almost need it to be a little bit more guided.
It was interesting. I was sitting hosting the Valorant tournament over the weekend, and I had Avril and Ryan Central were on the desk with me, and we were talking back and forth between Valorant and Overwatch, and something that I had brought up was Overwatch League is the best designed game I've ever seen in my life. From like if you take the individual pieces of the game, the sound design is amazing. The art design is amazing.
Sure.
Like did you see the screenshots that the Overwatch League Twitter showed about like shots from the game or whatever? They were completely like cinematic and beautiful, and there's no other esport or game in the world that gives you those types of screenshotable moments, and those just all come from like the spectator replay viewer, right?
Sure.
Just it's an amazing design game, but there's just these fundamental flaws that for whatever reason we've been unable to address, and I feel like every seeming step forward has been 2 steps backwards.
I think at this point, I want to give the developers the benefit of the doubt. I want to give the league the benefit of the doubt. But at this point, it feels like you need to check your confidence. You're not the adult in the room anymore. To Opti's point, I think he has a great analogy on a fantastically written article that I suggest you all read. You don't know better. This isn't, you have to kind of check the hubris here and kind of change fundamentally this game, because if Overwatch 2 really is just a cosmetic update, we're going to have the same discussion in 6 months. We're going to have the same discussion 12 months later, and then 18 months later. And I don't know how long we can have that discussion until, something actually gets done, because potentially changing a model and changes are coming, and Overwatch 3 is coming. That only lasts so long. Yep. We need actual healthy updates. None of these have been healthy.
I want to talk about last week's games, and before we do, we need to play this.
You're being such a bummer.
That bummers though.
Yeah, I tried not to be, but okay.
I think we all did.
Actually, a nice little snap. It's a nice little snap where you just go, "Oh yeah, I was in that zone."
You it's just like, bringing me Katie, out of that. Thank you, and Chengdu Joe, appreciate you bringing
Happy
us back,
to serve,
bringing us back into reality a little bit. Got a little dark at the end. I don't know, man.
I don't think these games were bad. These games were positive. I liked these games. These games were good. I like them.
Let's talk about these games. And before we do, though, let's actually just start by talking about the Echo.
Sure.
Echo saw its Overwatch League debut and saw a lot of play, almost universal except on Control, if I remember correctly. Yeah, it felt like I saw Echo on just about everything.
Most teams, I'd say. I think Valiant was really the only team that I remember off the top of my head that was like consistently not playing it off of Control, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Valiant was running like a lot of Tracer Ash.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
they were
dishonest comps. Yeah, I get it. I try not to address these dishonest comps.
Fraudulent.
This honest podcast.
As a fraudulent major, studied it in college, with my dissertation written on the ins and outs of Chinese Overwatch and the Chengdu Hunters. I feel equipped to deal with any and all fraudulent compositions. So just defer to me. I'm the expert here.
I will say this. It was really fun to see Echo. It was really fun to see how players would transition to Echo, but I can't help but feel that if the hero bans were any different, we wouldn't have seen Echo this week. And the conspiracy theorist in me The conspiracy theorist in me thinks that a big part of the delay was to not have Widow and McCree in the league because
yeah, maybe
I don't know if you can plan that way.
I mean, no, okay, like tinfoil
come
hat,
on,
like
give him a
tinfoil
little
hat,
algorithmic
like,
push.
you know,
Give him a
like,
little bit of YouTube magic.
go.
Come on.
Here we go.
Got to show Hero 32.
Echo.
I'm legitimately podcasting with two conspiracy theorists.
The birds aren't
Overwatch.
real.
Cool. The new Overwatch League hero Echo was scheduled to go live 2 weeks ago, and mysteriously got banned. Ka-chunk. Coincidence? The next week, Widowmaker and McCree get banned and Echo's back in. Is this John Spector at work?
we may never know. All right, we're done.
That's the stuff though. Just lie. Just do it. Just lie. Like you said, some algorithmic thing. Oh, we're working with cyber magic again. Is that the algorithm thing?
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah,
It's also,
nice.
you know, the magic that, you know, changed the minimum player rule. Spooky. Who would have known? Magic.
Yeah.
If we don't understand the algorithm, how can we know if it gets changed? Not out of the realm of possibility, John. I will give you that. You've sold me. Maybe it was.
I'm just saying it was kind of, but we saw it. Any particular
Yes.
players stand out as exceptionally good or bad at Echo to you?
I think Ivy and EQO looked quite solid from two people that have seemingly kind of traded scrim time on Philly. I think they looked great. Profit, weirdly enough, looked quite.
So that was going to be my question.
Yeah, but-
Is Profit? So I actually didn't get to watch all of Soul's matches.
Not much to see.
I know, right? Because I blinked. And but Profit was on Echo for them, and Yiska, the GOAT, was on Echo, brand new hero, the flex god, and he didn't look super swollen flexy on that one.
Oh no, he did not. I mean, a lot of it comes down to just being so ridiculously out of sync between the teammates,
Which is weird.
Like,
That's
the
strange. to
cohesion
me.
is just super gone there, and you would think that there's some built-up synergy there. I'm not sure what's going on there. It's really sad in comparison to the first weeks. Maybe that's just on the Risa Sigma stuff they could be playing. It's weird also. Okay, now we saw some Michelle, but why did we see Marvel on Diva before? Like stuff like that is just like so weird where it's like, I mean, are you picking up someone else? John was free. Easiest thing to do. Like he's in Korea anyway. It's
I mean,
visa
this was
issues.
happening before that, though. You know what I'm saying? Like this has been kind of in-house. This has been a strat for a while before we can kind of hand wave and say maybe they're picking up Janu. This feels like either somebody's ill or somebody's sick. This doesn't feel necessarily like a gameplay thing again. This feels like we have to scramble and we have to field this. It doesn't feel strategic because they're not necessarily breaking out double shield every week. Sometimes it's not even available in Marvel Plays Diva. It's like, but why? Why is that the case? That seems very bizarre to me. And to your point with, you know, you're the identifier of the Gesture Profit duo. This felt like a dive, you know, composition that they should excel at.
Theoretically should.
In a week that feels like a gimme. You're playing against the Spark and the Charge, who, you know, let's face it, have been a little, you know, back and forth. Sometimes they look good. Sometimes they completely fall flat. Maybe that's a hero pools thing. It's still tough to determine. But Spark in general, like, not a great team, even in their own region, not super strong. And getting completely ousted and bodied by them, like, that's not yeah, I'm gonna say it. Something smells fishy. I smell something.
It's also so strange. They did like, I think it was 4 or 5 times where like someone just gets picked off early, and that's fine. Then you reset.
Sure.
But they don't reset.
Nope.
Profit very often as well. They don't reset. They stint weirdly, awkwardly around the Hollywood point.
Yep.
Have Profit on elevator, which is a ridiculous risk that you don't even know that the other team doesn't know that. Like, and then very often it just went stupidly wrong, and you just like basically have a fight reset with like 5 seconds less than a normal fight would have been. Like, it's so strange to go for that. Why not just like jump off the map or just like reset in some way? Yep. It seems like such an awkward thing that often just really disadvantaged them, which is like maybe that's something that they realized in their, like, they looked at the ult charge percentages that people get from a cleanup.
I don't think
they decided like
big.
Statistically that it is better, but this is just it's such a weird, like if that works, then okay, maybe that's a step closer to optimal Overwatch. It really didn't look like this. Like they were caught out so often with these weird just like scatters. Like communication seems off in some regards.
Yes, very much so. People using ults as others are dying, or again, like you said, communication's just been abysmal this week for Seoul.
Yeah, and someone needs to teach, like, look at the routing that a lot of Echo players took, because I think like the rotations that Prophet was using there on almost all maps looked like really weirdly misshaped and like almost forced, where the opponent was just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I think they were completely forced, which I think comes to a main point that I'll get to. But I think Prophet was playing like a lot of these deep, wide flanks where a lot of teams were very much direct. Charge was very direct in how they were diving. Winston and Echo right on top of one another. D.Va, following up at certain times, if Primal's up, it was tough to exactly gauge when they were committing that, but it felt like a very direct and, kind of fundamental composition that Seoul should be very, very good at, but they weren't. Communication was completely off. Prophet looked very bizarre and kind of, clunky is not a good word and not an adjective I like to use, but he felt very uncomfortable. I think my working theory is that Seoul was very late to the Echo party. They only had one composition all weekend.
Maybe, yeah.
I think they were very late to it. They scrambled day of and said, oh, crap, we don't have anything, not prepared for Echo, but scrims have shown us that Echo is leading the charge. Not the Guangzhou charge, but like the prevailing meta. So they last minute swap. They have one working composition. They try to apply it to every single map, which I think is a detriment. And they look like this. The coordination's not there because they have no idea what they're doing because they haven't practiced it. I think they were late. That's my working theory.
I do have to pose the question here. Obviously, Seoul got dominated here. There was, I think before this week, Seoul was still in contention of being a top 3, top 4 team. After this week, were we a little bit early or late to the Seoul party?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They've definitely dropped, so. But I don't know if I'm completely selling the stock. If anything, hero pools have taught me to really slow down.
I do like how somebody had mentioned that our preseason rankings were not very accurate.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to be able to know that
a
fundamental change is coming.
They were before hero pools happened.
I'd love that. That'd be swell.
I was just like, dude, come on. Anyways.
Yeah. It's also preseason. Like, come on.
Yeah,
that seems intellectually dishonest.
There are currently only 9 players on that roster, right? Am I wrong?
On Seoul?
Yeah. That, I don't know, dude. That seems like, 9 players. It's almost like there might have been, like, I don't know. That would be, like, I think Seoul is so bad right now that I would pull that parachute.
Do you think any,
what's the parachute, Yiska?
Parachute is Janu. The parachute is Slime.
It's any of the Vancouver Titans that can get their hands on.
You bring up a great conspiratorial point. They have 9 players. Fissure used to play for the London Spitfire, who are owned by Cloud9. Maybe Fissure's on the market. They have 9 players. Cloud9, Fissure, new main tank.
Come on.
Coincidence? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, Vancouver mysteriously fly over to Asia.
They're in NA now.
And then they're like, you know what? We're flying back over to NA. I mean, maybe they're just shuttling their players over to Seoul at that point. We'll see.
Yeah. We're reaching here.
I mean,
I don't know why Seoul's bad, man. I have not a clue.
I don't, yeah.
It is inexplainable. This is one of those hand wavy hero pool guy. I don't know.
Yep.
Nobody could have called that they were going to get bodied by two teams that maybe are like mid pack. Some team, in some experts' opinion, they're higher. Some experts' opinion, they're much lower. It's hard to tell, chat.
Dude,
I wish I could say more.
I'll tell you, they didn't look that swell in NA scrims. Like that was a little bit of a tell. Where I think it's pretty safe to say that Super was the guy. Was also referring to them going to be exposed. Let's keep in mind we proclaimed them to be the best team in Overwatch League based on 2 games. I think, as far as we recall.
Yeah. And to be fair,
they won against Spark, but I mean, it felt very thin. But of course, I was also one of those guys that was on that hype train. Mm-hmm. It's very easily possible that the hero pools were just massively in favor of them because of double shield. And
possible.
It is strange that they opted to just like go hard on the tank iteration of Sombra Echo. So I also think at this point, like, how NA and Asia have like this discrepancy in how they value Tracer and Sombra.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think NA is right. I think Tracer is a better pick.
I think in like a vacuum, I think I agree with Asia. I think Sombra is the perfect pick, but that's the enemy. As the saying goes, perfect's the enemy of the good. I think it's more feasible to run Tracer, and I think that's going to provide more immediate value in a system that is very chaotic. So I think Tracer is the right pick, but the perfect pick, I think, is Sombra.
I mean, I'm kind of making this devoid of context, but it feels like, okay, Asia goes like, okay, we got a new hero pool. What can we play? Okay, let's start with Sombra. While NA teams go like, okay, Brig is open and Tracer is open. That means we can run a Tracer comp.
Yep.
And maybe both of them are wrong, but in the direct matchup, like especially like watching NYXL, for instance, like that Shanghai then later on had to mirror or did pretty early on the series. Maybe my recollection is completely off because it was kind of late. But like, or kind of early rather. It's a weird situation where I think that it's interesting to see these stylistic choices between them, but it feels like maybe NA has the more practical approach. Like perfect Overwatch is not what we're playing right here.
No, exactly. That's the point. That's the point.
Like
I just hate the term perfect Overwatch, and I hate you guys for using that on the show. And I hate that we're gonna get the comments that are like,
"There's no such thing as perfect Overwatch. It's supposed to be adaptable and fluid."
Shut up. Yeah.
All right. Fair enough. That's enough on Seoul. We got to move on. I know I'm cutting you off again. And I do want to talk about NYXL. NYXL did take Shanghai.
Yeah.
They took Shanghai to a map 5. And so, I don't know. This is a team, I think, at least for me, that is trending up a little bit. Joe, are they bouncing back for you? They're back. They're back in the homeland.
I don't think they fell too far. Like I definitely bagged on them a lot because this is a team that for 2 seasons straight has had impressive regular season performances. Season 1 obviously finishing. kind of falling in playoffs, but in season 2 obviously having I think an undervalued playoff run, getting I believe 3rd, at least 3rd, 4th in that range if my memory serves me. But in general, speaking of a fluid and dynamic team, anybody expect Roadhog to be played? Not me.
Yeah.
NYXL apparently did and had some early success with it. Kudos to Shanghai to be able to deal with it and, stymie that push. But Sabiobi looked fantastic on control on Tracer. Speaking of old man strength, showing he's still got it, coming from a lineage of a fantastic tracer play. On. Well, swing and a miss, swing and a miss. Okay, put him on comfort hero, he works. Move him off. Maybe not. Yeah. Maybe not.
Maybe he's in prime position for just half a series and then the stamina. Or I think what realistically happened is at halftime they just like located him as being something that you could focus more on, and that completely like was something NYXL couldn't directly deal with, and it looked like that was such a Jekyll and Hyde game or match from NYXL. It was pretty nuts, but I also think that it looked like this because Shanghai made that happen. Yeah. And I also think this series, the way Shanghai handled this, says a lot about Shanghai in terms of like composure.
Yeah, I'm really glad you brought that up because that was going to be like one of the 2 points that I had to make about this match. Damn you. Is that like, well, yes, this is great. NYXL took them to 5. They went up 2-0 early and Shanghai adjusted. We keep talking about Shanghai, we think they're for real. There's no reason to believe that they aren't real. But this is, I think, an excellent example of a top team adjusting. And it's I feel like the Shock last year were one of the few teams that, if they ever were down or were fumbling, were able to make those quick adjustments. And other than that, that's been something that's kind of been missing from other top teams. Is the other top teams either they just kind of steamroll right through you, or they find a way to eke it out, or they lose. And in this case, we saw Shanghai go, what do we do? Come back in at halftime and pull off the reverse sweep. That was great.
And that is also that's the type of change you can make mid-series. We've trashed the concept of improving on the fly. That doesn't work when you're completely changing either comp archetypes. So you go from dive would play well into this. Nah, dude. You cannot make that up in the halftime. What you can do is just take the composition that you practice and go maybe in that situation we do this, and have different tactics going on, not necessarily different hero picks.
Fantastic point. I think that post half, I think they focused a lot more of their Discord placement on Sabiolbi and Who Are You in particular, to really limit and shine a light on any kind of weird flanking maneuvers, and really got a lot of pressure off of them to allow Lip to find these back end picks, especially on Rialto, just soloing the back line as they transition up into the high ground. Holy tactics. To your point though, I think they did change tactics and that was fantastic, but I think it's risky. But I wonder that if Hero Pools has opened up a way to kind of make audible calls that are completely nonsensical, but sometimes work. I will get to a team that I think that did that. Play. It is a complete Hail Mary play. I'm not entirely sure that a team has done that, but I think we have some talking points later on that we might.
Valiant?
We'll have to see.
Okay.
Not gonna,
I agree with.
Here's the show.
Yeah.
All right, fair enough. Well, speaking of the Valiant, you brought him up.
Okay.
So we're gonna have to talk about him. The LA Valiant, upset the Atlanta Reign 3-2 in another reverse sweep.
Yes.
And,
shocking.
Here's we need to have there's a few honest conversations I think that we need to have about the Valiant as well as the Atlanta Reign. And I want to have the Atlanta Reign one first, if I'm being honest, because the Atlanta Reign, I feel at this point I'm losing a lot of confidence. I think in them as a top tier team. Not that they're I still think they're a top team.
I think they're a good team
in NA. They're a team that's going to make playoffs. They're a team that's I honestly can turn it on and be very dangerous and kind of unexpected. But overall though, they're just they clearly feel like they're the an A team, right? They're not S tier at this point. They're gatekeeping those S tier teams, if even that.
Yes. Well said.
So Atlanta Reign, are you guys concerned? Are you guys okay with it? Do you think that this is par for the course? Or do you think that they're underperforming?
I don't think it's par for the course by any means. I think they have the talent to be able to push into a contender spot and really kind of be in pole position for a title. I'm not sure why they're not. I
Boston
really
is also
don't.
in pole position to push into a contender spot.
True.
Ayo.
Weirdly enough, another way. Sure, got to get the digs in when you can, since we're not talking about them this week. But Atlanta, yeah, this feels like a smaller Philly. And if you really can't win with a roster like that, something's wrong. Again, I'm smelling some fish. Something don't sit right with me. When you have a team like this and they can't perform, we've got issues. We've got problems. I don't know where they lie. There's nothing that, there's no weird roster moves. It's very subtle, but it doesn't make much sense on why a roster that has this depth, that has this kind of talent on it, isn't performing up to standards. And it's not just a week by week thing. They're taking, some heavy losses and they're going close against teams they shouldn't. I feel very weird about Atlanta. Again, I agree with John. I think they're an A team. I think they're good. I think they probably still will make playoffs come end of the season. I think they'll probably do okay for themselves in the May Madness tournament, which is another positive for Overwatch fans and Overwatch League fans. Great, super excited to get into that. But the Reign, not such a contrasting opinion on both of these teams going into the season, and look exactly how this game played out. You have a team that has a stacked lineup that's very deep in talent, that has a pedigree of doing well, at least from the season previous. And then you have the Valiant that were a little kind of struggling in season 2, brought it back, complete thanks to the coaching staff on that front. They build a roster, some call it a budget roster, some call it the B team. And you still have that same coaching staff that should be in the discussion for elite level at this point because of wins like this, because of what I believe is an audible call to remove Echo, who looks like to be the most busted thing since sliced bread. You just have it pre-sliced. Like what's the deal with that? And you put in KSP on Ash and just fraudulent your way to another victory, I guess. Like, if it's I can't tell if it's an audible call. I think it's very weird that the last 3 maps just happen to be, I don't even know if they just happen to be like Ash maps. I think some of them, some points they were, better on or better to Ash than others. But yeah, props to the Valiant. I think Packing done a bang up job.
It's not a more honest team in the Overwatch League, if we're being honest.
Let's talk about the Valiant though, because I'm high on the Valiant and I had to go back and look at their schedule.
Sure.
And I don't understand the Valiant. So they beat Atlanta Reign.
I don't understand.
They beat the Shock. And then their third win came from the Fuel. Otherwise, they got swept by the Shock. They did take LA Gladiators and Fuel to a map 5 where they lost. They lost to the Shock again. They got swept by Seoul. They got swept by Vancouver. Like, this is still a 3-6 team that seems to just like
with arguably the strongest SOS and the strength of schedule. I mean, in the league,
sure.
right? Like,
I will give you that. They
got some bangers.
Yeah, they definitely are. They are one of the few teams over on the Pacific side. So they're down there. They're with Chengdu. They're below Guangzhou. Yes, chat. I know what you're about to say about map differential or just map score in general. It's very deceptive thing. But at the end of the day, this is a team that is still 3-6. So I need you to sell the LA Valiant, which I feel like both of you are really high on the Valiant right now. But I feel I think Yiska is a little bit more. He's been flashing the V for a few weeks.
He's been
I need you to sell us.
I mean, it's more like to justify why they're not like an A tier team. I would say. I think they're a B tier team.
I'd say B+, like the gatekeeper to A. Yeah, I'd say so.
So why is a 3-6 team a B to B+ tier team?
I think Yiska touches on it, beautifully with the strength of the schedule. I think you look at a lot of the teams that have gimmies against Boston. Where's the justice games? These are games that they're going to win, that are going to improve their map score. When you take 2 losses against, the Shock, that's nothing to be ashamed of. That's last year's winner. That's the championship reigning team that
You also
should
take a win,
rightfully
of
be at
course.
the top. Exactly. I think this is a team that a lot of people were sleeping on. I didn't expect it. Again, this is a team that I didn't even expect to do this well. And again, they're exceeding expectations. Feels like a Hunters of last year, both in style and in narrative. I think it really does come down to the strength of schedule. They're going to start getting some gimme wins. It'll boost them up. Then we can have this discussion again and really look at where they're at. I'd like to see them play like a Mayhem, see where they sit.
Okay.
If you can beat the Mayhem, fantastic. Get a rematch against the
Does that get
Gladiators.
you
Okay.
out of C and into B? Is Mayhem your C?
I
They
mean,
might
It's
low
hard to
B?
place the Mayhem at the
Yeah.
moment because they're also
They're-
moving up the ranks.
they just come off like fantastic wins. They beat the Paris Eternal, which I think is fantastic for them. And I mean, they beat up on the Boston Uprising, but who doesn't these days?
Mhm.
The coaches who have come on this show in the past are streaking right now. Coincidence?
Cue the
don't-
music.
I don't think so. Probably a coincidence.
Definitely coincidence.
Probably. Yeah, fair enough.
Sipping on that juice.
Gee. Yep. Sipping on that juice. Yeah, so anyways, Atlanta struggling, stocks are down, Valiant
Yeah.
stocks are up. Let's talk about Fusion.
Sure.
The Philadelphia Fusion. I can't even believe I'm saying this. Well, actually, again, Philadelphia Fusion were nearly stymied this week by the Paris Eternal. And that would be the second time. Their first loss was against the Paris Eternal as well. Barely winning out 3-2. Thoughts overall here, guys? I honestly don't have much to say except like Paris can be a good team when they want to be, and hero pools are kind of weird, and EQO was in. We're seeing a lot of different like looks from a really flexible Paris, but not Paris, really flexible Fusion, but just one that I don't think necessarily looked their best this week.
After rewatching the game, it didn't feel like it should have been a 3-2. Like this game at many points should have just ended. And then Fusion kind of do something dumb. And Paris just gets not gimmies. Again, they have to kind of execute and punish the mistakes, but there were plenty of points where I feel like Fusion could have pulled back and kind of been a little bit more conservative and really put the nail in the coffin. But I felt like a lot of the times they were reaching, especially like on Dorado. I know that it was a little bit deeper in the series, but Dorado trying to really fight for Dorado first and try to, finish it there was, yeah, I think this was less about Fusion I think it was less about Paris, somehow having their number or, hero pools this. It really felt like Fusion may have taken it lightly mid-series, may have tried to, overreach and try to put the final nail in the coffin and just gave up some maps and gave up some leads that they really shouldn't have. But that said, again, they came out with a win. Again, on control without Echo. So I think that also an interesting point. Route 66, my bad.
Yep. I like our chat. Our chat is always polite to correct us.
Yes.
They show us grace. They're like, hey, you guys are talking about a lot of things in 90 minutes. You might not get every detail right. Here's the detail you need. See how that's done, YouTube? All right. We do sadly have to get out of here. I don't want to get out of here. We just gotta. It's been a long one. Chat, you guys have been amazing. 160. We eclipsed 170 viewers at one point.
Wow.
Today. So hey, let's give you all.
Thanks for the support.
Give you all a round of applause. You guys are great. Thanks so much for hanging out. You guys are the best. I hope you had a ton of fun we do have timestamps. So if you're listening to this, well, it's too late now. You listen to it all. But in the future, we do have timestamps. So if you didn't love the 2020 season plans, letter to our fans conversation, you can skip those and just get straight to the games. Hope you had a ton of fun today. We do have one new patron this week, Joe.
This week's new patron is this one guy, 435. Thank you for the support. And for anybody else who doesn't necessarily have the monetary support, obviously COVID's got the wallets in a stranglehold. You can also go to iTunes and leave a 5-star review, which is completely free, and we'll shout you on the show if you do. So any support is welcome. Or you can just tune in and download the podcast or watch on YouTube. That's great too. But this one guy, big thanks for the patron support.
And another great way to support us for free, two different ways to support us for free. Number one, join us on the Twitch stream. We're making that push to partner right now, and we really appreciate all the viewers who have come in to support us. Even if they're lurking, they're AFKing and going off and doing their other things, we appreciate the hell out of that. You could also use a Twitch Prime sub right here for free. If you have an Amazon Prime account, you link it to your Twitch account, boom, you get a free sub to your favorite streamer every month for free. There's no reason not to do it. So you can do it right here, and we appreciate that a ton. Means the world to us. That's going to do it for us, though. Shout outs for the week. I'm going to go first for once. Nothing. I got nothing. Follow me everywhere at KickedTripod, twitch.tv, YouTube, Twitter. Anywhere, just type in KickedTripod, and that's where I'm going to be. I'm actually working on doing I'm really excited. I'm doing some redesigned stuff on my own personal channel. Right here, we're gonna update some of the alerts and things like that. I think it might have alerts come up during the show in a way that's not intrusive. It doesn't play a sound, so that looks nice, so that when you subscribe during the show and we can't thank you right then and there, it's at least acknowledged.
Yeah, you get a little
so that's going to be kind of going on, but that's kind of it for me. Yiska, shout outs for the week, and where can people find you, man?
As always, my Twitter, at Yiska out. I've mused a little bit on whether if the Titans go where they could be going. I went hard mode for the first part and just put the players that I thought were harder to place and try to find them a new home. And then now I get to have fun and build those super teams with the remaining 4 players and just see where those superstars like Haksal or Slime and Twilight or Janu fit in. And I think we'll if that comes to be, there are actually some think of
exciting
enhancing the eternal, or think of enhancing I don't know, even the spark or something like that. There's amazing potential if that was to be, and we can build some great teams on the ashes of this great roster if that was actually to be the case. I'm still not 100% sure if that is going to be the case. So watch out for that. Going to be a thing tomorrow on
Joe,
GG Recon.
Awesome. Joe, what about you, man?
As always, you can find me on all the socials at Volamel. That's a VOLAMEL. This week, similar split of content. We got a little bit of Valorant, a little bit of Overwatch. For Valorant this week, I think I'm going to be looking at some early meta picks in terms of agents and the definition of what a wild card pick is. I think we coined that on the desk this weekend. And then for Overwatch, do
I get credit for that?
I think so. I think we're gonna take the W on that one, and the wild card 5th pick in terms of agents at the moment is an interesting discussion to have, and there's some pros and cons depending on the map. But in terms of Overwatch, Seoul's on the docket. I think Atlanta and Valiant as well are definitely talking points. But we'll have to see. Also, this hero pool is going to be a little weird. So stay tuned. Content is a coming.
Awesome. All right, chat, we're going to get out of here. We are going to be right back for a brief post show. I believe we've got a few minutes too, because we love all you hanging out here. We want to answer your Overwatch League related questions, hang out and chill, and all of that good stuff. So we are going to be back right after this, but thank you everybody again for hanging out. Again, we are making that push to partner. We have to get those 75 concurrent viewers. We went from, in the past week, we went from 48 to like 56. And we had 150 plus viewers almost this entire stream today, which is going to help us even more. So we're getting closer and closer, and maintaining that means the world to us. Means that we can bring better emotes. Means that we get always get guaranteed bitrate quality, so that if you're on kind of a crappy connection, you can always watch the stream and the show live, and all that stuff is super important. It also gives us access to, like, when any of us go to an event, you know, if there's a Twitch event in Germany, Yiska can go to the partner party, which is pretty sweet. So
that would be sweet. Yeah.
Help Yiska go to the partner party in Germany is what we'll call the campaign to do that. We really appreciate you. Yeah. He promises leaks. Other than that, you know, just keep being you. You guys are the best fans and listeners and viewers in all of the Overwatch community. We appreciate you a ton. Hope you have an awesome one. We'll see you right back after the music.